This is my father, Israel Tiger, and he's holding an Etrog box which has a most unusual story, and I'd like to ask him about this Etrog box. First of all, could you tell us how you it came about that you acquired this piece?
Well, this goes back nearly 45 years ago when I was a soldier in the Canadian Army in northwestern Europe. It happened in May 1945. The war with Germany was over, and peace we were once again at peace.
Okay, so you're saying that this happened in 1945?
Yes, in May 1945.
May of 1945.
The war ended May the 5th, 1945, and we were at peace now. After the war ended, a couple of weeks later, we were told that we were now going to move to Bremen, Germany, to take up the occupation, be part of the occupation forces of Germany. But first, we had to go back to Holland. So we found ourselves one day in a little town. It's not a little town, it was a city called Enschede, just over the German border. And we moved into a bombed-out textile plant. And we were told to stay and wait. So we waited. And as we were waiting, the next day, waiting to get orders to move forward or to go back or to stay. So when we come to a place, any location, first of all we put guards around the area. And this afternoon, one of the guards comes over to me and he says, "Tiger, somebody wants to see you at the gate." I just couldn't imagine who wants to see me at the gate. Who knows of my presence here? So I follow the guard up to the gate, and when I get to the gate I see the usual thing. Children asking for candies, cigarettes, and an old man. So I asked the guard, I don't see anybody I could recognize. I asked the guard, who's looking for me? So he points to the old man there. So as the guard pointed to the old man, this old man approached me, grabs me around and starts kissing me. After hugging me and kissing me, he starts to cry. And he says, "Mr. Vergeben." Now first he asked me, "Bist du Yid?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Mr. Vergeben, ich gehe wie ich sehe Soldaten. Feierst du jüdische Soldaten. Und als du mir danken, wie best ich kann. Und das ist der einzige Weg, da kann sie dir danken. No, Thomas, da haben Zeit. Kim hat mir gegeben eine Adresse, soll kommen und sehen." And then he walked away. Well, that evening, I asked permission to go out, and I was granted. Now take a look at the paper he gave me, and the ad was just around the corner from where we were. So I go knock on the door, and I walk in, and I saw a terrible sight. There were these children, the people from the starvation camps, emaciated. Children that you could put your hand around their wrists. And they were all happy to see me. They were all happy to be free out of all this misery, untold misery that they'd suffered. One woman there had lost their husband, others had lost all their family, and they didn't know where to turn to. And as I was listening to their stories, I went back to not my barracks, but the location that we were in. We slept under the trucks, over the trucks, wherever we could. I wake in the morning, and I knew there was a great hunger in Holland. And as we go for breakfast, I noticed that every morsel of food that the soldiers leave over, there was the Dutch people grabbing every morsel. So I thought to myself, gee, I'm before them, and I could do something, I could do a good deed. So when they had finished eating, I stuffed whatever I could, bread, margarine, whatever we had for breakfast, into my uniform. And I went over to the sergeant and I told him that if I could go around the corner, he should mark me present. He said, okay. So I walked out to the gate, I walked to the address, knock on the door, and I walk in, and I open my uniform, and out falls all this food, this white bread, butter, whatever I could pick up. And I could see their eyes just bulging out of their head. But this old man, realizing the situation, that there shouldn't be a grab, gets up and stands in front of the table, and he says, nobody, geen uit een schessen, bis de kinder has. So they put some chairs at the table, and these here emaciated children, must have been 12, 14, 15 of those ages, started to eat. And as they eat and they savored the bread or whatever they could, they began to just fall asleep. Well, I couldn't take it anymore, so I left and went back to my duties. Well, back to wait at the location we were camped. Well, it so happens that we did not go to Bremen, but we were told to stay. So we unpacked, set up our various workshops, and there we remained. And after a while I developed friendship with all these people. The emaciated children were soon whisked away to different hospitals. The one lady was so happy, they applied to the Red Cross. She found her husband was in England. And all these here people, after a short while, just went away, and all there was left was this old man and another lady, Frohoch was her name, I remember. His name was Koenig. And we became friends. Whenever there had chance, I went over and we talked. But he told me about the previous life he led, the different camps he'd been to, and how he finally landed in this place in Holland. Here he was hidden. In Dutch they called it untergetaucht. And then one day I knew that I had leave coming to me, so I applied for leave. Well, they told me, if you have money, you can go for leave. So I said, I want to go to Paris. So what? They said there's openings in Paris. So I left for Paris. There, I had many other things happen, many other pleasant adventures. I found a cousin and his family alive and well who had lived through this terrible ordeal. And on my way back, came back 10 days later, I went to see my friends, and this lady opens up. When I open the door, she comes running to me and says that Herr Koenig died, and they left you this Etrog box, and there was in it the Etrog box and his yarmulke. I didn't bring the yarmulke because it must have been a very expensive one, a very beautiful yarmulke. My father wore it. I sent it home, and my father wore it till he passed on. And they told me that he died smoking cigarettes that you gave him. He says the poor man died of hunger. But the irony of it is that after he passed away, a parcel arrived from Chicago with food in it for his father. That's it.
Okay, now I'm wondering, you said a parcel of food came from his father?
From his son.
Oh, from his father. The son sent the food for the father,
yeah.
and he died within a few days of receiving the package of food.
Yeah.
By the way, what was the first name of this man?
I don't know his first name. I don't
Koenig.
know his but his name was Koenig, yeah.
Koenig. Do you know how he spelt it?
Koenig.
Do you know what this man looked like? Could you describe what he looked like?
Well, he looked as if he'd seen better days because he still had a suit and sounded very to be told about this. When he had time, he'd like to look over all to read Torah, Gemara, the different Jewish, the Talmud. In fact, when he was in concentration camp, that's what they did. He was old man. He must have been way in his 70s. As I said, emaciated and gray. And he didn't look as if he was that sick. I'm sure he must have been very sick because they underwent terrible conditions, being hidden, not to be able to go out for years, to be hidden in between walls.
Did he describe to you how he was hidden during the war?
Well, they were hidden by Dutch people. The thing is that he had a lot of money. He paid for being hidden. So that's why he had his money lasted right through the occupation.
Okay, now you said, what did you say? What business this man was in? How
He showed me. I think he showed me pictures of some big mill he owned in Austria.
He owned a mill in Austria, and he hid in Holland during the war.
Yes.
Did he tell you how he escaped Austria, or how he managed to?
If he did,
you've forgotten. Okay.
It's 45 years now.
Yes, of course.
But the thing that I remember most is this old man out of nowhere, just kissing me and beginning to weep, and he says that's the only way he could show gratitude for what we did to volunteer to fight Hitler.
Do you know, was this Etrog box passed on to this old man by his father, or did he buy it?
He never told me. Actually, he never told me because he never had a chance to.
Yes, of course.
I'm sure he never expected to give it to me. But maybe he had some premonition that he was dying, and he didn't want it to fall into, as they say, goish ahead.
Yes.
And here we made friends, and we enjoyed each other's company. So he willed it to me.
Okay. And you say he has a son in Chicago, or had?
At that time he had.
So you don't know if he had any other family or what
So.
in the United States?
No.
And you kept this Etrog box after the war?
Well, I sent it home.
You sent it, you mailed it home, actually?
I mailed it home.
So basically all that is left of this man's wealth was that Etrog box.
Yeah, that's right.
And the yarmulke.
Yeah.
And you still have the yarmulke.
And for Passover, I wear it.
Okay.
The Passover Seder.
And you said that yarmulke was his father's, or?
As I said, Stanley,
Okay.
he never discussed it with me because he never told me anything about that. This was a complete surprise. Yeah, when I came back from leave, this lady gave me the yarmulke and the esrog.
So he entrusted the lady with these objects. He knew he was passing away.
Maybe he had a premonition.
He had a premonition that he was passing away, and he wanted you to have it. So now it's your Etrog box.
Right.
Well, thank you very much for telling us that story. It's a very moving story.